Hey, I'm Randall Thompson with Dugout Mugs. You are watching the walk-off with Scott Belford and Adam Mack.
All right. So excited to be joined today by former professional baseball player with the Toronto Blue Jays organization and one of the founders of Dugout Mugs, Randall Thompson. Welcome to the walk-off, man. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me.
That's a heck of a light fixture you have behind you there.
I bought a home in November, and it came with the house.
It came with the house. You're new to the place. Congrats. That's great.
Yeah, thank you. Yep.
Where are you at right now?
We bought a home in Bartow, Florida. Probably nobody's ever heard of it ever before, but not
Well,
very much.
you're a Florida boy, right?
I am, yeah, born and raised Florida.
That's where you started playing, obviously, too. I'm curious what the sense is around Florida when spring training hits. Do all the kids get excited with all the pros coming in there? Like, was it something you looked forward to as a kid?
No doubt. Yeah, I grew up in Orlando, Florida, and that's where the Braves used to spring train. And most definitely, every time March would roll around, grew up a huge Chipper Jones fan, and just running out on that grassy knoll out at the Disney Worldwide Sports Complex, and yeah, just have a ton of memories of spring training, and then also high A ball at the Florida State League. There was a field not too far from the house that I grew up in, so yeah, I got a whole bunch of memories of professional baseball being in Florida, and in general, the kids are growing up with all these kids and going to see this stuff. It was definitely a thing to do in Florida.
Oh, that's cool. I can imagine there being excitement. I know, like when I was a kid, I loved spring training, and I'm about as far away from it as possible. So,
Yeah.
are you a Magic fan too? Being from Orlando, man, are they tearing down?
Yeah, I grew up a Magic fan because I grew up near downtown Orlando, and that's where I think it was the Amalie Arena, and that's when Shaq and Penny Hardaway and just kind of this really good team.
Oh, iconic! Absolutely.
They were sick. But now, no, I don't really follow the NBA. I don't really follow the NFL.
Yeah.
But yeah,
you still keep track of baseball, obviously.
I do. Yeah. I hated it for a while after I got released, and I kind of like said, I'm never going to watch it ever again. But it with enough time, you start to realize that you can't let
it wasn't personal. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's rewind to exactly that then. Tell us about 2011, because that was the year that you got to do something that almost none of us get to do, which is you got to play professional baseball for a year, man. Suiting up with the Gulf Coast Blue Jays. How did that experience come to be? Kind of walk us through that process of getting signed and being assigned to the team.
Yeah. So my junior year, going into my junior year of college, I had a pretty good chance of getting drafted. I strung together some good years in college, and then I played some summer ball in the Coastal Plain League and did well. So I was optimistic of getting drafted going into my junior season, and I kind of just shit the bed. Always dreamt of playing professionally, and I think just tossing and turning at night, just kind of being able to taste it a little bit, thinking that I was actually going to get that shot. I overthought it, and then anytime you're overthinking anything in baseball, it doesn't usually yield great results.
Yeah.
So then after my senior season, I ended up getting signed, and I thought I kind of was just sitting around my parents' house after finishing my last classes of my senior year, and kind of going back to my house and my season ending. I thought like I was going to get drafted, didn't get drafted. And I always thought that there was going to be like trumpets playing whenever I signed, and like a parade coming down the road. And it was nothing like that. I just got a call from one of my assistant coaches at Florida Tech, which is a small D2 school over in Melbourne, Florida. And he said, "Hey, you're getting ready to get a call from Matt O'Brien. He wants to sign you." And I said, "Okay." And so flip phone and everything, Matt O'Brien calls me, and that's a scout for the Blue Jays in the area that I'm from. And he said, "Hey, do you want a job?" And I was like, "Oh yeah." And he's like, "Okay, pack up. You'll report to Dunedin tomorrow morning. I said, all right, cool. And then that was it. And I
no
thought,
trumpets.
yeah, no trumpets, man. I mean, I even went inside and told my dad, and he's like, I'll believe it when I see it. I was like, all right, well, I guess nobody really cares here. I've been working my whole life towards this, but sure. Yeah, that's how it happened. I got to Dunedin, and they kind of just told me I was going to stick around there, and I just ate up a little bit of innings for them, and yeah, that was pretty much my
That's
career.
very cool. What was that season like? Did you enjoy your time there? Like, what was a typical day? Was there a ton of travel? Was it just?
No, I mean, I was 22 and kind of naive. I look back on it now and I say to myself, like in the moment, I didn't like it at all. I loved college baseball. Professional baseball was just a whole nother breed. The best way I've ever heard it put, and it's so true, is that your whole entire life you use the game of baseball to better yourself, and then when you get to professional baseball, baseball uses you to better itself, and that's an incredibly difficult pill to swallow. And when you get there, again, you think it's going to be some sort of lifestyle, and it's nothing like that lifestyle. Living in a hotel and kind of just being really bored, to be honest. You got a lot of free time.
Just a lot of waiting for games, eh?
Yeah, just a lot of sitting around, and I'm like, man, this sucks. And I look back on it now, and I wish I didn't have that mentality. Because what other job can you get into and give like a hard 4 years, and the upside is a minimum $600,000, and you get to play baseball for a living?
Yeah.
There's no other like formula that leads to that other than where I was sitting at the time. But I didn't take that approach. I was kind of an asshole, not to my teammates, but just in general, just my overall approach to the whole thing. I said, I worked this hard to get here, and I don't even really want to be here, which is kind of dumb, but you live and you learn.
Well, no, it's funny because you kind of brought this up earlier about the mental side of the game and what a big piece it is, right? And I can imagine, I mean, even in your first year, you pitched well, you were under a 3 ERA and 47 innings. Like, that's not too shabby. What was the mental process like that going in the next year into spring training and then being cut? Like, you kind of touched on it that you just didn't like the game for a while.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask my teammates, I probably got released because of a freestyle rap I did on a bus.
He's like, you do not need to hear it.
So in that boredom of things, one of my teammates had a MacBook, and it was something that I enjoyed doing in the free time. The lots of free time that we had is that I would create music on like GarageBand, and I came up with a song about the Gulf Coast League, and the Gulf Coast League is just a really shitty league altogether. You play at noon in the Florida sun, and it kind of sucks. Like, listening to myself now, it kind of like, dude, there's people that will cut off a toe to go pitch. So I realized that, but it's like put another quarter in the merry-go-round. It's just not a great. It's not a great taste of professional baseball. And so I wrote a song about the Gulf Coast League and just pretty much how much it sucked. And we went on this bus trip to watch the big league club Blue Jays play against the Rays over in St. Pete. So we had like a 45-minute bus trip, and people were doing like funny stuff on the mic with the bus. And then one of my buddies like nudged me and said, "Hey, perform the GCL song." And I was like, "All right." And so it pretty much just like shit on the Blue Jays ish and the Gulf Coast League, and probably like 2 or 3 days later, this was an extended spring training. 2 or 3 days later, they gave me the boot. So I have to assume, like, I wasn't doing horribly.
Yeah.
And I was the only one that got released that day. So I have to assume that like word got around that I talked some shit, and they said, "See you, buddy."
They're like, we don't need this kind of honesty.
Yeah, it's toxic.
So, yeah, where did you go from there? Were you trying to looking into independent leagues or trying to catch on elsewhere, or did you just decide gonna hang it up for a bit? I know you did eventually get into coaching. Was that something you wanted to do instantly, or how did this play out?
No, it wasn't. So I got released and I was sour. I didn't. I got a couple independent ball opportunities, and I said, "No, I'm done with baseball." And so I went and got a job at a paint store, and I was working at a paint store, and I was like, "Well, this is even worse than the Gulf Coast League." So I said,
Yeah, what did you get let go because of a rap song about the paint store?
"No, there's no trend like that." But yeah, so I hit up my old coaches at Florida Tech and I said, "Hey guys, I need to get back in baseball in some capacity. Can I come back over that way and coach?" And they said, "Sure." And so that's when I went back to Florida Tech, and then that was eventually coaching there. That first year coaching there was eventually the place of the for the idea of the dugout mug.
That's great, man. I'm curious about your time as a pitching coach a little bit because it's funny we've got a friend of the show here, Anthony Telford. He played with the Expos back in the day, and he's a pitching coach right now for some of the young guys around Florida. And he always mentioned that it's weird as a pitching coach being able to see other people's flaws and pick out what other people are doing, but yet you could pitch as a pitcher and just be off of your how you're throwing, your technique, whatever it is, and just never pick it up on your own. Did
Mhm.
you kind of find the same thing?
No, I usually the ones that are more talented are the ones that have a harder time feeling what they're actually doing. So like this guy that you're referencing, he was probably really naturally talented. Not saying he didn't work hard, but
Yeah.
he probably was a really talented dude, kind of quite naturally. To where I grew up, where I really loved the game, but I was always kind of like a step or two behind everybody else. So I was in this kind of constant like I got to feel what I'm doing. I gotta kind of learn more about the game to kind of get an edge to kind of even stick around. So my struggles, I guess my struggles from like let's just call it travel ball era until probably about my senior year in high school, um, kind of helped me feel the game and understand the game better than most people. So I never really had any troubles feeling what was going wrong. The I kind of got a better feel than most
Yeah.
because of that struggle in the beginning of my career.
Speaking of your career, it's funny, Randall. Like one of the things as we kind of looked into you here that impressed me about your career is you just always kind of found a way to stay involved in baseball in one way or another. Tell me about Dugout Mugs. Number one, super cool. And for those listening who don't know, it's basically mugs made out of baseball bats. How did this idea come to you? And what did you do to kind of start making it a reality?
Yeah. So you saying that my pitching coach in college, his name was Lee Stang. He pitched for the Red Sox in the '60s, and then he coached in the big leagues. And he kind of a roving guy. He was around baseball his whole entire life. And I remember, I think it was either my junior or senior season in college, of him telling me like he's done this, and pretty much he was at that time, I think he was like 66 or so, and he was in our dugout and he was just volunteering to be our pitching coach. And I thought it was really neat that he never left the game of baseball. Kind of his whole entire life was baseball. And I looked at that and I said, man, I would love to emulate that in some way, because deep down I do love baseball, and the thought of sticking around it in a bunch of different ways, or even the way that I am right now,
Mhm.
it's so ideal for me. But yeah, the dugout mug came from sitting in that same dugout that I was just telling you about with Stanger, and the recruiting coordinator / hitting coach at Florida Tech was cutting baseball bats in half and creating a training tool. And so a bunch of loose baseball bat barrels were lying around in the dugout, and examining them and looking at them, I thought to myself, there's that natural cup to the bat. I said, if that cup just kept going down, could you turn this into a pretty cool beer mug? And that's where the whole initial thought started.
That's great, man. I know it's interesting. We chatted with the founder of Prairie Stick. So they're a bat manufacturer here in Alberta, Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And when the guy started the company, it was really interesting to me. He knew literally absolutely nothing about the manufacturing of bats. He was a ball player and he just liked the idea of it. He said it was like a romantic idea. He didn't even know what like a wood lathe was.
Right.
How much did you know about the manufacturing of bats and that sort of thing before you got into this, and how much trial and error was involved?
Absolutely, yeah, a ton of trial and error, and absolutely nothing about anything. I I have journals. I like to keep notes in journals, and I have journals of like wood lathe question mark, and I'm why. And it's so simple when you look at it back now. Like what I was trying to do, it's so simple to me now. But the thought of like I needed a wood turner, and I spent a year trying to pursue of just like trying to figure out, well, how do I get a hole in this? And I can't believe I asked like that many wrong questions and never eventually like something just leading me to a wood turner. Uh, but it's so obvious now. Yeah, I knew nothing, and when I'm being in business now for coming up on 5 years, and then a year before that, kind of just pursuing everything. So 6 years of pursuing a product and building a business. What I've learned is the best talented people are the ones that can Google the best. It's people come to me and they're like, hey, how do I do this? I'm like, I don't know. Give me 5 minutes. I'm just going to Google it. And that's really, I mean, just knowing how to ask the right questions, whether it's to the right people, because there are people that have a certain expertise, or even just going to Google and typing something in. Just asking those right questions can lead to a whole lot of success.
That's really interesting that you're so right in the fact that all the information in the world is available to us.
Mm-hmm.
It's finding it.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to figure out the right questions to ask?
It did. So I had this idea in 2014. I didn't actually start pursuing it until 2015. I left coaching to take a internship at an ad agency because I had this real itch to be creative, and so I was an intern at this ad agency during the day, and then I was working at this restaurant called El Gallo Grande, the Big Cock, and I was I was a waiter there. And like within the same week, I came to this realization that like this ad agency wasn't going to be what I wanted to do, or it was just kind of shitty. And there's kind of like this trend that now that I'm realizing that maybe it wasn't all these things that were shitty. Maybe I was just shitty. And I got fired from the Big Cock taco place all within like the same week. And at this time, I was living in my sister. She took our garage and converted it into a studio apartment. And I was back there and just kind of had no job, no real direction, and kind of just in a moment of like, okay, what the hell am I going to do? I reached in my back pocket, and I have tons of ideas, and I thought to myself, probably the most simplistic idea I have, the one that seems like it's the most doable, is putting a hole in a bat barrel and turning it into a mug. And so I went to my back pocket in kind of a desperate time and said, I'm gonna give this a shot. And that was in 2015, and then by 2016, I launched the company.
That's great about. So I'm a professional comedian. I've been making a living at it for 4 years. been doing it for 12. So it took me like 8 years of either working part-time or even just working full-time and then developing an act to get to the point where I could actually make money at it. And I know deciding to go full-time is such a big thing, just mentally, right? Like to take that plunge and do that. But I found when I did it, I made a lot of progress because all of a sudden I wasn't dividing up my time. When you took that plunge in 2016 and decided, Kate, we're going to go all in on Dugout Mugs, how did you deal with the mental hurdles, and where did you notice an increase in productivity?
Yeah. So I started Dugout Mugs in the middle of 2016. And I was working at a paint store again, full time, full time in 2016. So there was a 6-month window where I was running parallel with running Dugout Mugs and working at this paint store, and it was legitimately the hardest 6 months of my life.
It's exhausting, right? You're burning the candle at both ends.
It was really, really. I hate saying things are tough because um, that's always a position of just it's subjective.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot tougher things going on in this world, but I look back on those times and I was rough in it. So those ran parallel for about 6 months, and then same thing. Kind of came to a crossroads where I asked myself the question: am I not doing this full time because I'm not doing it full time? And I know that kind of sounds like a strange question, but it's just that's the reality of things.
Yeah, it is.
If I put my full time effort into this, could I be doing it full time? And it sounds like when I say it, it sounds dumb, but it's the ultimate question that I got to. And I said, all right, well, a couple of things happened. One, I ended up partnering up with Chris, who's my business partner now, and he has experience. He had a ton of experience in selling things online. So that first 6 months of business, I did about $70,000 in sales. And after I did that in sales, I was constantly looking to pick people's minds and try to figure out how to scale it up bigger. And I came across Chris online, and I sent him a Facebook message, and I said, "Hey, I'm just trying to learn more about Facebook ads. Could we link up? This is my company." And I just sent him the link, and we ended up meeting in a hotel lobby in St. Pete and drank a beer and kind of just talked for 20 minutes. And then that eventually led to a string of emails that eventually just us working together in probably about January, February of 2017. So the very last and here is I was getting a bonus in February, like February 2nd of 2017 from this paint store. And I wanted to take that bonus and I wanted to roll it back into Dugout Mugs.
Right.
So it's like, okay, I proved a little bit of a concept. I have a business partner that has done this before. I kind of believe this is going to work. I'm still incredibly nervous about it, and I'm getting a nice little bonus to give me even a little more of a runway to get this up and going. And the combination of all those things eventually had me take the leap into doing it full time.
Well, it is interesting when it comes to passion projects, how many of them fail for exactly the reason that you just brought up. If you're not putting everything you got into some of this stuff, it's almost impossible to push it across the finish line.
For sure.
And because it's hard not to be trepidatious. I mean, everyone's still got to make a living, right? Like you still got to put food on the table and pay your bills and stuff. And sometimes if you're looking at the bottom line of your passion, you're like, I don't know if we can pull that off, but big congrats on doing it, man. Like that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. What I truly believe is that the only way you're ever gonna, and I can only speak from the vantage point or the seat that I sit in from an entrepreneurship standpoint, but I'm sure you can relate with this from a comedic standpoint. Is that the only way that it's ever going to happen is if you really, really, really want to do it. Like if you love it and you want to do it, that's the only way it's ever going to happen. There's going to be so many scenarios and situations and opportunities for you to just say F it. Like, I don't want to do this. This is too hard, or I would rather whatever, insert anything else. But you just got to really want to do it. And you got to have a little bit of a vision of what your life is going to look like when you're doing it. And I think if you can hold on to that, I think I think for the most part, you can accomplish whatever you want to accomplish, but you just got to really want to do it. So I'm married now. I was with who's now my wife when this was all like when one of one of our first dates. I had an old Tahoe and I had a bunch of baseball bats in the back, and I got just like these craft bats from a company. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to turn these into mugs." And yeah, I was driving a paint delivery van when we met, and she's a teacher, and a lot of times she would just we'd go out and we would booze and kind of just drink at the bar, and she'd pick up the tab. So she kind of either thought I was really hot, or she or she saw the vision. Maybe a combination of both. But yeah, I did kind of live like a well, I mean, I didn't have a lot of money, but I did live, and I still do live frugally. I just I ate rice cakes and peanut butter for almost a year for lunch, and kind of just put everything back into the business, and just to make it happen and make it work.
It's sacrifice. It is sacrifice. It's just like, yeah, for the goal in the end. I know you had just a pretty major order from your former organization, the Toronto Blue Jays. Love to hear how that whole thing played out.
Yeah, that order came. That order came in actually at the end of 2017, and so the way that it shook out was when I first signed in 2011. There was a website called jaysprospects.com, and I got a message on Facebook that said, "Hey, congrats on signing. Would you mind doing an interview?" And it was with somebody by the name of April Witzman. And I said, "Yeah, sure." And we kind of did this whole write-up thing. And over the years, April and I just kind of kept in contact, and she knew about Dugout Mugs. And then fast forward to 2017, she's working for the Toronto Blue Jays, and I'm just maybe first full year into Dugout Mugs, and I got another Facebook message, and it was from April, and she said, "Hey, the Blue Jays are looking for season ticket member gifts. I thought maybe your product would be a good product for that." I said, "Okay, yeah, that's definitely something that we would want to do." She said, "Send me a sample, and then also write up like a letter with your company letterhead, and I'll hand it to the right person and make sure that they get it." And so, long story longer, they get it, and a little bit of back and forth and a little bit of exchange with the buyer, and she ends up saying, "Okay, yeah, let's do it." And they ended up putting in a purchase order in for I think it was 3,500 mugs or so. Maybe,
oh wow,
maybe 4,100.
Was that your biggest order at that point?
Oh yeah.
You're like,
at that time, we had like 2.5 laser engravers. There was one laser that decided to work sometimes and sometimes not, and then we had just 2 others. And it was one of those things that we took the order. We never shipped anything to Canada, especially of that size. So then we thought, oh, do we need a broker? It was all these things that kind of just said yes, because you don't want to not take the sale. It was the amount of units that we sold was more than double what we sold all in 2016. So yeah, and so we're just like, oh, we can't say no to this. So we just figured it out. But yeah, it was a pretty cool full circle moment of being able to sell that amount of mugs to the Toronto Blue Jays.
Right. Turns out you didn't burn that bridge as bad as you thought you did with that wrap.
Yeah, it's different departments. So like if you would have asked the roving pitching instructor if they should order the mugs, he probably would have said no. But,
out of curiosity, what team sells the best for you? Are you just moving Yankee stuff more than everything else, or is it pretty even across the board?
Yeah. So a majority of our sales are online. We sell a lot of Cubs stuff. We sell a lot of Yankee stuff. The Dodgers, when they won the World Series, we sold a whole lot of Dodger stuff. Um, but as far as we work with all the team stores within the MLB stadiums as well. Uh, one of the biggest supporters is the Cardinals. Ashley buys a whole lot of stuff from us, and so does the Braves. The Braves buy a whole lot of stuff as well. So those would be our two biggest supporters from like a MLB team store purchasing side of things.
Can you actually drink out of them on a regular basis, or is it more just functional and ornamental, or can you just go to town on it? Like,
Yeah, I definitely could drink from it. You could drink from it every day. I see it more as like a game day mug, and like a
yeah,
big game. Kind of take it out and drink from it. Somebody recently said that like they put water in it on their bedside, and like they wake up and drink from it. And I'm just like, I don't know if that's really the but heck, I don't really care how people use it.
yeah.
But if that's the way they want to go about it, sure. But yeah, I see it. You can definitely drink from it every day. But I just see it more as like kind of a rally mug, so to speak, or just like a World Series 7-game World Series. Kind of bring it out and drink from it.
When it's all on the line, you bring out your dugout mug.
Yeah.
I know you did touch on the online side of things. How big is that to you? Pretty much everything, I'm guessing.
Pretty much everything. When I started the company, that's kind of just how I saw things selling. And now, once the pandemic hit, um, thank goodness we were structured the way that we were, because something I told Chris, my business partner, is like it would suck so bad if we took the past 4 years or the last 4 years of just building out our wholesale footprint, our retail footprint, and something like this happens and we're not structured or positioned to do well on the e-com side of things.
Yeah.
I just feel really fortunate and blessed that's how we decided to grow the business. And it's 99% of our sales now. And before COVID, it was 90%. We lost 10% of our business whenever COVID hit.
Oh, it's interesting to see how this pandemic has affected everyone. I know myself, like I made the majority of my income off of the live side of things. And oh, boy, that was an eye opener of like, you hear that saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And then when it's proven to you, you're like, oh, that saying exists for a reason. Okay.
Yeah, you got to diversify.
Right. I know you touched on this earlier. Baseball gave you all sorts of stuff when you were younger, and then you felt like baseball kind of took things from you once you got pro, right? Like, looking back, what is the one thing that you kind of valued the most coming up as a baseball player? What was the one thing baseball gave to you the most?
The two things that I miss the most now that I look back on and that I really really appreciate is the camaraderie of things. So just the friendships that you create in a locker room environment, in a dugout environment.
You probably still have friendships from back then, eh?
Yeah, probably not as good as I would hope they are, but you guys maybe relate that you kind of life starts to happen and
Yeah.
you kind of grow apart. But like my college roommate was my best man in my wedding, and he was also on the team. He was another pitcher, and then the competitiveness of things. I really miss competing. Business is fun, and it's there's a different type of pressure that comes along with it. But as far as just like being on a mound and pitching and competing in that and with teammates and winning like nail biter games,
Yeah.
it's just so tough to replicate that once baseball's gone. So I would say those are the two things that I probably miss the most about baseball.
Randall, thank you so much for your time, my man. I really do appreciate it. I know for our listeners out there who are looking for a dugout mug, you've got, if you can go ahead and give your little spiel here, you've got all of the teams. Where do they go online to get them, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, dugoutmugs.com. And then we're on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's all Dugout Mugs. You can just search Dugout Mugs and you can find us. And then I'm also personally on LinkedIn if anybody wants to connect.
Amazing. Thanks again, brother. Really appreciate the time.
Yeah, pleasure's mine. I appreciate you guys helping us spread the word. And if you guys don't have any Dugout Mugs, shoot me an email. We'll get a couple in your hands.
Amazing.
I guess.
All right. Thanks so much, Randall. Really do appreciate it.